Yo, hi everybody. Hello. I was just up here and then I went off stage and now I'm back because that's how you have to do things. You know, it's like official intros. Gosh, this is so much better than Zoom, right? It's so much better. I'm so pumped to be here with you all and to see human beings face to face. Okay, I'm gonna jump in, I'll do a little quick intro, but I would love to learn a little bit about folks here first. Creators, if you're a creator, raise your hand. Oh, yes, lots of creators. Okay, cool. Folks in like the creator industry. Okay, music industry specifically? Wow, not so much in the music industry. Okay, how about like advertising? Who's in advertising? Okay, a lot of people in advertising, great. Who's just here to party? Okay, great, cool. I need your help this morning. So I want to, seriously, I know everybody says that, but I actually do need your help. It's gonna make the talk better. So I wanna get us warmed up so we can hang out together. This is harder to do over Zoom, so I wanna try doing it live. I wanna ask you a question. First thing that comes to your mind, shout it out as soon as you have an answer. It'll be a very easy question, so you should be able to shout it out. We're gonna do a couple rounds of this. First thing that comes to your mind as soon as you have the answer. Everybody ready? Can I get a thumbs up if you're ready? Okay, great. What did you have for breakfast this morning? Yes! Wow, that was good. That was so much better than what I was expecting the first time. Okay, let's try this. We're gonna just repeat after me. We're just gonna give it a good ha, but we're gonna say it from our guts like we mean it. Just a ha. Ready? Ha! One more. Ha! Okay, now try this. Yes! Yes! Yes, that was great. Okay, one more thing. I really don't like advice talks. I hate it when people give advice, which I'm gonna get into in a second. But I'm gonna stand up here and give advice today because that's what I'm supposed to do. So here's what I need from you. When I give you advice, I'm gonna give you some context. I'm gonna give you ahem. I'm gonna do that. Ahem. I'm gonna put my finger in the air, and then I'm gonna give you advice. And when I do that, I would like you to say, "Fuck you, Jack." Okay? Let's try that. So here we go. So here we go. Ready? Wait, can we try? Let's do a practice one. Ready? And. Fuck you, Jack. Oh, come on, folks. Here we go. Ready? Practice one. And. Fuck you, Jack. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, let's try it. Finger in the air. Ahem. Advice. Fuck you, Jack. Here we go. Ahem. You should upload to socials every day. Fuck you, Jack. Ahem. You should be working on your personal brand. Fuck you, Jack. Let's try the last one like you really mean it. Ready? Ahem, you should spend more time marketing your album. Fuck you, Jack. Yes, thank you. This is gonna work. That's great. Okay, let's get into it. So this is my band Pamplemousse. Can everybody see the screen? Yes, any Pamplemousse fans in the house? Does anybody know Pamplemousse? Okay, a couple folks. We started in our bedrooms. That's my childhood bedroom, making YouTube videos. And now we've got this wonderful production. We come out with weekly music videos on the web, on YouTube, and we've got a team that helps us. We go on tour, we do all the things. We've got like, cinematographers and directors. We've got about a team of 20 that helps us come out with these weekly videos, about 4 full-time employees. It's an awesome, fun production. I love it. I'm in a second band called Scary Pockets. Any Scary Pockets fans in the house? A couple Scary Pockets fans? Okay, cool. Scary Pockets is a funk band that I started with my buddy Ryan. That's Ryan. Also, we come out with weekly videos. We work with about 20 contractors. We work with over 200 musicians now. We go on tour. We play shows. We upload, YouTube videos. We worked with everybody from like Elise Tro to Theo Katzman. It's a lot of fun. And then a couple, 4 or 5 months ago, started this channel called Professional Musicians React. This is like a real, this is a real music nerd channel. Has anybody seen any of these episodes? A couple people? Okay, a couple people. We're just getting started. I'm excited about this. It's really fun. We get really nerdy. We talk about harmony and music and production and songwriting and form. And it's really great. We have people come on and do these interviews with us, and there's a whole production around it. It's really fun. We did a session with Leland Sklar the other day for Professional Musicians React. This guy has played on Every pop record, like literally over 2,000 pop records, starting with James Taylor and working his way forward until now. Okay, and then about 9 years ago, I started a company called Patreon. And I'm not going to go through the whole story here, but I started Patreon because I was working on this music video. I'll spare you the details. It got wildly, wildly complicated. I decided to build a replica of a Millennium Falcon cockpit in my studio. I ended up framing a wall, working by myself. No production company, no team, no anything. This was 9 years ago. I was kind of going rogue. My wife was out on a global tour kind of for her solo career, so nobody was like making sure I was going to the bathroom and eating and stuff. And it was a wild ride. Ended up going to like junkyards, drained my savings account, spent 10 grand on this video. It actually came together. I'll show you a quick clip of it. Can you see that video? Is that playing? That is a real animatronic head that is actually singing the lyrics to the song. There was a 3D printed hexapod robot in here, which you'll see in a second. The point of all this is like, I killed myself to make this video possible. I worked so hard, 3 months by myself in my studio, and ended up maxing out 2 credit cards, spent 10 grand. And at the end of this process, I had this horrible realization, which was essentially, I'm gonna upload this video to YouTube, and I'm gonna log in and I'm gonna see this dashboard, which I'm sure if you're a creator, you've seen quite frequently. On the left, you see 1 million views. In the middle, 2 million minutes of watch time of people watching this thing that I made. And then my paycheck for that was $166. And the thought of like giving this one to Google for $200, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I needed to do something different. And that's when I started thinking about Patreon. I called up, this is me in college, that's me and who turned out to be my co-founder, Sam Yem. I called up Sam, I pitched him this idea that I had sketched out on 14 pieces of printer paper. We launched Patreon. I launched it from the floor of my dad's office. I didn't have good internet at my house, so I went over to my dad's to launch Patreon. That plate there that you see is leftover pizza from the night before. I'd been up for 34 hours getting ready for the launch. It was a wild, wacky time. We moved into a 2-bedroom apartment with a bunch of folks. We started this company. Sam was building the first version of Patreon from his bed. And now 9 years later, Patreon is sending about $1.5 billion a year to creative people around the world in over 100 countries. And yeah, it's awesome. Cool. Okay. This talk is called Creating in a Shitstorm. And here's the inspiration for it. By the way, I've never given this talk before. I built it for today, for you all. The reason I wanted to give this talk right now is because I have met now thousands and thousands of creative people through Scary Pockets, through Pomplamoose, through Patreon. And the common thread is this sense of relentless, incoming shitstorm. How do I keep going through all of this? Is what I hear from creative people. I know it's more than just creative people. I know a lot of people feel that way. And so I wanted to just offer some thoughts on at least how I deal with the never-ending onslaught of the world and how I try to keep creating, keep going anyway. That's the idea behind what we're doing today. We're going to talk about custom design. We're going to talk about the inspiration machine, subtract, and we are not alone. Who's ready? Okay. Custom design. Here we go. I don't like advice talks. In fact, I don't like advice at all. Here's why. Here's a piece of advice about humility. Ready? Piece of advice about humility. Humility is the single most important lesson I've learned over 9 years of running a company. So many people would get to where they want to go if they could just admit they were wrong and move on. When Patreon launched in 2013, I did not like the idea of monthly subscriptions. In my mind, a monthly subscription put creativity on a schedule, and I was philosophically opposed to that. The form of subscriptions that made Patreon awesome was per creation instead of per month. For example, this creator, Smooth or Groove, charged his fans per a cappella video. In other words, every time he released a new a cappella video on Patreon, it charged his fans. This solved the problem of subscription income for Smooth McGroove, but let him decide when to get paid and when to publish. This creator, Epidaya, was making a gaming magazine and charged his fans per issue of the magazine. Lauren O'Connell, who's this amazing singer-songwriter, charged her fans per song. This was my genius vision for Patreon, this new form of subscriptions. It allowed the creator to create their own schedule. And when a creator signed up, we would just ask them to tell us in the blank what they wanted to charge their fans for, per what, per music video, per vlog, per webcomic, whatever. And then one day, a creator in the sign-up flow decided to write the word month in the blank. Gotta love the internet. And they just started charging their fans once per month, every month. Tons of other creators followed suit, and then creators started begging us for a monthly feature to make the workflow easier, and it took me a year to come around, but I finally caved in 2014 and reluctantly agreed to a monthly subscription feature. 9 years later, 93% of creators use the monthly subscription model. If we hadn't added monthlies, Patreon probably would have been put out of business by another company, and we never would have grown to where we are today. My original idea for Patreon just wasn't a great idea. It just wasn't a very good idea. It wasn't. We have all kinds of ideas like that. Ideas where there's something behind it that's good, but it's just not quite there yet. In those moments, it is important to remember that the best path forward is not to stick to your guns, but to check your ego at the door and to admit that you were wrong and to adjust your course. So that's a piece of advice about humility. Compelling piece of advice about humility, right?
Fuck you, Jack.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Here's another piece of advice. I'll give you one more piece of advice, and then we'll get into the talk. Here's a piece of advice about conviction. Ready? Piece of advice about conviction. Conviction is the single most important lesson I've learned over 9 years of running a company. It's one of the hardest things about product design, having the courage to do something when every sign is telling you not to. Patreon didn't exist 9 years ago. It was just this. It was a sketch in one of my idea books. There was no company, no employees, nothing. It was just me and Sam, my roommate from college. And I made a spreadsheet of 40 creators that I was hoping to get on the platform for launch day. This is a true story. Before Patreon launched, I made a spreadsheet. 40 creators on the spreadsheet. I emailed all of them. 40 out of 40 creators said no. They would not sign up. They didn't like the idea. Now, I would be lying if I said that it didn't make me a little bit nervous, but we marched forward and I bought the domain anyway, patreon.com from GoDaddy. It was $10.17. And Sam and I ran a 99 designs contest, and we picked the best design. And the day before launching, I checked my email from a guy who was supposed to help us get a bunch of creators on the platform to launch with us. And the email said, "Hey, Jack, sorry for not responding yesterday. I actually sent a bunch of follow-ups and invites to visual artists. Haven't gotten much back. Can't say the interest is sky high on this." But Sam and I decided to launch anyway, and the next day we launched Patreon with just 3 creators. Me, my girlfriend Natalie, and our roommate Lauren. 0 of the 40 creators I wanted to join launched with us on launch day. I almost gave up when I got a no from those 40 creators. I almost gave up. I'm glad I didn't. It felt like it didn't work, but 9 years later, Patreon has now sent over, in cumulative, we sent over $3.5 billion since our founding to creative people around the world. Sometimes when you think you have a good idea, you just gotta stick to your guns. You just gotta muster up the courage and go for it, even when every sign around you is telling you that you might be wrong. Okay, so that's a piece of advice about conviction. By the way, I realize it's probably like a very poor strategic decision to totally undermine my credibility as like a source of wisdom and authority in the first 5 minutes of my South by Southwest talk. But I really hate advice, and I want you to hate it too. And here's how I think about it. Here's why. Both of these stories are totally 100% true stories. Both of them. 100% true. But they both result in dog shit pieces of advice. Because for any quality that a human can possess, like stubbornness or propensity to get angry or positivity or playfulness or skepticism or conviction or humility, for any of these qualities, if you surveyed every person in this room, you would find a distribution of the amount of that quality that people have. Like for humility, for example, roughly about a third of you, somewhere around there, would be just slightly lower than the mean in terms of how much humility you possess. Another third of you would be just on the other side of the middle point, representing representing a slightly more humble bunch. About 13 or 14% of you would be even lower on the spectrum in terms of humility, not super humble. You might talk a bit too much on your first date, not understand why she didn't return your next message on Tinder, but you've got a lot of self-confidence, and that's a great quality. Another 13 to 14% of you might be pretty high on the spectrum in terms of humility. You might have some self-doubt as well, maybe some imposter syndrome like me, but you're not the type that brags about getting promoted on social media. About 5% of you total would be more than 2 standard deviations away from the mean. The 2.5% of you here would have a rare, almost inhuman level of humility. You're always listening to those around you, maybe a little bit too much, maybe sometimes not valuing your own opinions enough. And the 2.5% of people here are not so great. They're the people that think they're smarter than everyone else here, and they should be the ones up here giving this talk. The point is, the folks over here are already humble people, and the folks over here are less humble and might do better with a bit of a scooch this way. And the folks over here might benefit from being a little more confident and sticking to their guns, but because they're naturally humble, they go to talks where people talk about how important it is to be humble, and it validates their worldview, and they keep scooching this way and killing their shot of getting their ideas over the finish line because they don't have enough conviction in themselves. And some of the folks over here might have jobs like being a negotiator or something where it's good that they don't have tons of humility, because if they did, they'd get walked on. So how could I possibly know where you are on this distribution and which directional scooch is right for you right now? So here's a piece of advice about advice. Fuck advice! It doesn't work. Advice presupposes that there's a clear path forward, and I know it, and you don't. Whether or not someone says that when they're giving you advice, that is the premise of advice as a concept. The premise is, I know what to do and you don't. And that is horseshit. You are the only person in the whole world who can figure out what is right for you right now. I wish I had known that 9 years ago when I read The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Don't get me wrong, Ben Horowitz wrote a great book, but I was an impressionable first-time CEO, and I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I remember following a piece of advice in this book and totally pissing off the Patreon team, and I wound up on this couch at 3 a.m., unable to sleep, literally hugging my legs and crying like a baby. It was so, oh my God, I think about this moment, it's like one of the cringiest moments in my career. Does everybody have those moments where you just belly flop in front of a whole bunch of people? Raise your hand if you have a belly flop moment in front of a whole bunch of people. Oh God, I play those moments in my head over and over. This was one of those moments. That happened because I treated this book as if it were an instruction manual on how to be a CEO, instead of what it actually is, which is a single data point in a sea of data points about how to start a company. No matter the conviction of this speaker, or that article, or this video, every one of these dots is just a dot, one data point. Even the talk I'm giving right now, I might be totally full of shit. Maybe advice is great. Maybe this guy here has all the answers and you should listen to him. But rather than speculating what's right for you, I'll offer what's worked for me. Take it or leave it for yourselves. I try to practice something called customized design. And it's a simple idea. It's nothing novel. I try to explore and clarify what is wrong by asking myself questions. I define a crystal clear problem statement. I brainstorm options and ways to solve the problem, the specific problem that I'm having. Then I commit to and flesh out a plan. To help me get started, I ask myself questions. Questions like, how am I feeling right now? Why? I write this stuff down. How am I feeling? Why? Where's it coming from? Are there any narratives that I've invented in my head that might be leading me in the wrong direction? What's really bothering me right now? What are the problems? In what ways am I causing the problems? How am I contributing to them? How many different problems are there? Are they related? Is there a root cause underneath them all? Is anything going well? What? Why? Why is it going well? What am I trying to accomplish? Where am I trying to get to? How will I know if it's worked? What are my options? What are the trade-offs of those options? Are they worth it? What are the hard lessons I'm learning right now that might help me do better next time? I found that even if I thought I knew the answers to these questions, which I always think I do, I don't have clarity about them until I've explored and defined them in writing. I don't know how your brain works, but the best way I can describe my own thoughts is that they're a bit like asteroids, orbiting around a core idea or feeling, not advancing, just circling endlessly in a loop. That's what my brain feels like. But when I write, it's like strapping a rocket to those asteroids, and for the first time, the thoughts are launched forward sequentially. For me, writing uncurls circular thought patterns and propels my thinking forward linearly. It helps me bring definition to vague, uncertain ideas and desires. It helps me crystallize them into clear goals. That's why I force myself to ask these questions and write down the responses. This is an actual set of responses from one of these exercises in a Pamplemousse annual plan. Feel free to just like read some of these things. We asked ourselves these questions as Pamplemousse. It was like end of 2019, something around there. We were feeling bummed out and disorganized and underwater and just not great. And we wrote out what's working well, what's not working well. What do we want to improve for next week? This is like one of the many things that we do in this annual planning process. I want to zoom in on one particular problem. This is a really hard problem to solve for Pamplemousse. We've been working on this problem for a number of years. We've made a ton of progress. I'm really proud of the progress that we've made here. I want to share how we did this with you and how this idea of customized design yielded this solution. Okay, first step is defining the problem. So from this vague, anxiety-inducing thing of feeling like we're on this content treadmill and we're running as fast as we can and we're outputting as fast as we can, we crystallized this problem statement. The consistent burden of song per week, every day, every month, is a burden on Natalie's shoulders, and the relentless schedule of the content treadmill is decreasing her quality of life. By the way, Natalie, my partner in crime at Pamplemousse, I have a full-time job now. Natalie is the CEO of Pamplemousse. Everybody thinks I run Pamplemousse. Fucking Natalie runs Pamplemousse. She crushes it. She's an amazing leader. My wife is the coolest person on this planet, and she runs this team. She's an amazing, amazing leader. So that's why I'm framing this in terms of Natalie. Like, we were working together, and she was having these feelings that this was not working. So, what is this problem? I want to explore the problem, clarify the problem. What's really at the root of the problem? The importance of, I can't overstate the importance of a problem statement. Understanding what's really wrong is super important. What does the consistent burden mean? What is the relentless schedule like? What exactly is Natalie doing? How is she spending her time? We have to understand this before we can solve this. So I sat down with Natalie, asked her, Natalie, what are you doing? And we wrote out everything that she's doing. Fucking look at this. Pre-production work, choosing songs, developing and executing programming strategy, looking at seasonal events happening, holiday things, cultural things, movies coming out, arranging music and mashups, getting our mashup machine working, arranging instrumentation, harmony, creating harmony, booking the team, exploring options to confer with audio producers, hiring the core musicians, booking the studio, reaching out to extra musicians, developing the video vision, formulating the video vision, conferring with the cinematographer, creating a pre-production package, recording demos, recording pre-production notes, printing lyrics and charts, communicating, responding to ad hoc emails to people, communicating on sessions and scope and timing and engineering, and ensuring that any artist who we're collaborating with felt welcome, self-preparing, learning bass lines, learning lyrics, pre-production, post-production, doing background vocals for each song, writing out blocks, writing out blurbs for all the socials, giving feedback on video edits, project management, making sure things get delivered on time, following up with me to get mixes on time, publishing, responding to comments on YouTube and Patreon, inform and present with all stakeholders for all the publishing. Oh my God, no wonder she felt like this was relentless. This is where Natalie's time was going, and she felt like an automaton, not like a freaking artist. And it was relentless, and she wanted to get out of this. I was feeling it too. So we brainstormed some options. What can we do about this? How can we solve this problem? We could take a break. We could take a long break, 6 to 12 months. We could stop doing song per week. We could keep going with Pamplemousse, but just say, fuck it, we can't keep up with the weekly thing. We could try to take work off of Natalie's plate, remove work streams, remove decisions, remove responsibilities. We could try that too. We didn't want to take a break. The reason we didn't want to take a break is because we love Pamplemousse. It's fun. And if we kick this can down the road, we'd just get back from our break 6 to 12 months and feel exactly the same. A break wasn't going to solve the problem. It would just kick the can down the road. So we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to stop doing song per week. We didn't want to stop because this moment here is where we started doing song per week. This is a cumulative graph of Pamplemousse's subscribers over time. You can see we had our first viral video in somewhere around 2009. We grew like crazy, and then we kind of flattened out for like 7 years. And then we started Song Per Week to kind of reinvigorate things, and our channel took off like crazy. It was awesome. We were like back in the game. It was so fun. So we didn't want to stop Song Per Week. So we started to explore this problem. Take work off of Natalie's plate. Remove work streams, remove decisions, remove responsibilities from Natalie. This is a hard thing. It sounds relatively simple, but this has taken us years. Question is, who can we give work to? Now, very fortunately, Pamplemousse had started Song Per Week. It was starting to work. So this is Pamplemousse's views over time since around 2017. So we were getting about 50 million views a year at this point. So we were already making money. We were making some money from, this is a sort of chart of all of our forms of income, streaming and membership. By the way, every time I show a chart like this, I have to say, I am the CEO of Patreon, disclaimer. I have forgotten to do that before I got creamed online. It was terrible. So anyway, we had streaming income, we have membership income, we have some ad revenue, we have some radio income, live, merch. So we could afford to hire some people and help us with this. So we went back to this list of everything that Natalie was doing, all the things, all of the work, so much work. And we looked at this work, we said, look, some of this work requires people who understand audio. Some of it requires people who understand video. This was a key insight for us. We couldn't give this to one person. It's not like, oh, we need an assistant. Right? It's not like, oh, we need a manager. Why? Because some of this work requires audio skills, understanding engineering and feedback and design and creativity. Some of it requires video skills, understanding how to talk to camera operators and video producers and cinematographers. Some of it requires operational skills, booking studios, following up project management, etc. So we color-coded this task list and separated it out by skill type. And we came up with this vision to essentially have a head of audio, who's Ben Rose, amazing person, helps us with all our audio, have a head of video, Dom Farah, amazing director and cinematographer, awesome video producer, and head of operations, somebody to run all the logistics of Pamplemousse. This was like the idea. We fleshed out the head of audio role, we fleshed out the head of video role, we fleshed out the head of operations role, and then we kind of drew out this idea for how we wanted to organize and solve this problem. And this is what we ended up doing. We've been working on this for 3 years now. It's a hard problem to solve, but this is how we wanted to solve it, and I'm really glad we did. So now, we have a core team. We actually just hired one more person. It's like a post-production person who's on the core team. 3 years later, 2.5 years later, Pamplemousse is still growing because we're still doing Song Per Week. So the band actually makes enough money to pay all these people. Pamplemousse is still a profitable band, even though we've got all these employees on salaries. And we also, folks have 401k matching and health benefits. Like, it's almost like a company. Actually, it is a company. Pamplemousse is a company. It became a company. We didn't say, we want to start a company. We said, we need to solve this problem. And then the company became the best way to solve this problem. And I think, to take it back to advice, there is no piece of wisdom from the outside, no external advice that I can get from an external source that will sort out these problems for me. Our specific problems and solutions require our personal investigation and analysis through custom design, through deeply understanding and exploring the problem, laying out some options for solutions, committing to a solution, and then building it out over a period of time and focusing on the things that matter. That's what I mean by customized design. I now apply this principle of custom design, exploring problems, understanding them. I apply this to Patreon. I apply this to designing recording studios, Pamplemousse projects, personal relationships, company culture, how to learn modular synthesis, working with production teams for Scary Pockets, launching offices in new countries. We now have 6 offices around the world. Building a cohesive, fun band for touring, launching my own show for music nerds, everything. Humans are blessed with remarkable instruments of observation and understanding. These are miracles of cognition, these things that live in our faces. They're amazing. They're marvels of science. They are free to us, and they free us. What's the problem? What am I trying to accomplish? What are my options? I have to keep reminding myself to stop searching from the outside and to start looking inside for clarity. Ready? Ahem. You should practice customized design. Thank you. All right. Part 2. Oh, sorry. That was in case you didn't get it the first time. Switching gears. Forget about customized design. I want to talk about the inspiration machine. Has anybody seen this TED Talk? Benjamin Zander? No. Okay. This is my favorite TED Talk. I've probably watched it like 40 times. I just watched it like 10 minutes ago before I came up here. And I watched it because it makes me feel amazing. It reminds me like how I want to show up. This guy is so like generous and passionate and warm, and watching this talk makes me feel good. It just makes me feel good. And I actually watch it before every talk I give. I watch this talk. I realize I can do some version of this whenever I'm in blank page mode. Who has seen this? Who knows what this is? A lot of people know what this is. How many hours have you stared at a blank page here? I've stared many, many hours staring at a blank page here. That's Ableton Live. It's an audio recording software. Who stared at blank Keynote pages for hours and hours and hours? Who stared at blank Google Docs for hours and hours and hours? Blank Google Docs. What the heck am I going to do? I was just here. I was staring at a blank Google Doc for freaking 25 minutes when I remembered this thing that I do before I give talks, where I watch the Benjamin Zander talk on classical music. And what I have kind of learned that I can do is jumpstart my own creativity by making myself feel inspired. There are triggers that I found for myself that just make me feel pumped and excited and ready to go. And it's a very simple thing. For me, the trigger is Gary Vee videos. Now, Gary Vee, I don't know who likes Gary Vee or who knows Gary Vee. I don't even care what he's saying. You should buy NFTs. I just want to be happy. Don't you want to be happy? Like, I don't care what he's saying. He just makes me feel so good. Does anybody follow Gary Vee? Does anybody know Gary Vee? It's the feeling that I get from him that I think is so helpful to me. And so what I did was staring at this blank Google Doc. I opened up Gary Vee videos. I watched Gary Vee videos for 10 months, and then 10 minutes, not 10 months. Wow, that would have been a waste of time. I just outputted so much. 4 pages I wrote for 45 minutes without taking a break. That's what I mean by the inspiration machine. Finding things that you can do to jumpstart your own creativity. And here's how I think about it. Output requires input. This is true in all walks of life. People say this about songwriters. You have to get your heart broken before you write a good song. You know, everybody's heard that. But it's true for more than that. Running a marathon. Why would you run a marathon before eating the right meal and drinking the right amount of water beforehand? Driving a car. You can't drive your car unless you fill up with gas, or if you have an electric car, you plug it in. In order to create, I need to feed my soul, just like these other things need to be fed. Life needs energy to thrive. Grass needs the sun in order to grow, and I need fucking Gary Vee videos in order to make a presentation. Most people think that inspiration is luck. Some days I wake up and I feel inspired, and some days I don't. Actually, I think that is very much true. It's true for me. Some days I wake up inspired, which is great, and some days I don't. But what I've found is inspiration, for me at least, is more under my control than I think. Because I've started to think of inspiration not as something that happens to me or not, but as an activity that I can do. I now try to think of inspiration as an activity. It is an action that I can take. It's like brushing my teeth versus a weather forecast or getting rained on. Like, I can do inspiration. I've also stopped thinking of it as writer's block, because that makes it sound like there's something in my way, when really I just need to fill up my tank and I can be back and up and running in 3 minutes, just like anything else. Input is required for output, at least for me. And another core insight around this was that I wasn't missing ideas. It wasn't like I didn't have the content. It was the feeling. I was missing the feeling. I needed to put my body physiologically in a state of mind that was pumped about creating stuff. That solved the ideas problem. I didn't have an ideas problem. I had a feeling problem. So here's what I try to do now. Anytime I'm inspired, I try to take note of it. Whenever I'm feeling inspired, I'll take out my phone, I'll write down what I did 2 minutes before that made me feel like that. It's like keeping a log of all this shit that makes me just jumpy and excited. And I can revisit that whenever I'm in blank page mode. It's like a great little hack. The really hard part is observing in yourself when you're inspired. That's the hard part. Great artists are great observers of themselves and observers of the world, I found. Jerry Seinfeld has this bit where he talks about the little Halloween masks that you used to have when you were a kid, little plastic or rubber masks and the rubber band around them. And there was this little staple that stapled the rubber band to the plastic mask. And it's such a funny bit because I'd never noticed that staple until he talked about it. He noticed it. That's what makes him special. He's an observational comic. He observes things that other people don't. I found great artists are like this, painters. It's not even that they can execute painting. It's that they see how light reflects off of a tree or a river, and they're able to capture that then. But they're really great at seeing things, more so than even brushstrokes. We can do that too. We can be observers of ourselves. We can notice, when do I feel awesome? What did I do right before that? What made me feel awesome? And for me, it's media. I'm lucky. It's mostly other people's creations. Casey Neistat videos, Benjamin Zander, Gary Vee. I just have to watch 10 minutes of this and I just go. For you, it might be gardening. Maybe it's taking a walk, taking a shower. For me, it's also taking a shower. When I'm in the shower, I get super creative. Driving. When I drive, 6-hour drives, oh my God, it gets me in the zone. Maybe it's watching the Beatles documentary. Who saw the Peter Jackson Beatles documentary? Yeah, I know a lot of creators who are like, I can't make it through an episode without running to the studio and writing a song. Maybe it's that. The point is, you should build an inspiration machine. Yes, thank you. Okay, by the way, if you're coming to the talk late, that was really weird, right? I don't like advice, and so I'm up here giving advice. And so whenever I give advice, I've asked everybody to say, fuck you, Jack. So for people who are just joining, let's actually try that all together once. Ready? Here we go. You should build an inspiration machine. Fuck you, Jack. Okay, great. Now we're all on the same page. Okay, subtract. How are we doing on time? Doing well. I did not understand the power of subtraction until my mid-30s. I love doing things. I just love doing things. I love making stuff. I love building things. I love creating stuff. I've loved that as long as I can remember. This is me when I'm 5. I'm on the left side there. I did plays. This is also me on the left side, more Moliere plays. I loved acting and I loved being in plays and telling stories and all that. It's just great. I also did track and field, I did baseball, I did everything. I did all the things. And I remember I'm 8 years old and I'm feeling stressed because I'm wondering, should I disappoint my drama teacher or my baseball coach because I have conflicting play practice and a baseball game. And that's probably story of my freaking life here. This is me in college, triple booked at 4 a.m. This is when I knew I had a real problem. I was in this film society, I was shooting films, but I was doing other things. I was in an improv troupe, and we did shows, and we went out in the middle of the night, and we rolled people out of bed at 4 a.m. when they got into the troupe. It was so fun. We had so much fun with this group. Film society, all the kids were busy during the day going to classes. So when we shot our films, we shot them at night. I probably shot 20 films when I was in college, and we had to work in the night because that was the only time that the whole crew was free. I was also in bands all through college. We played at the local coffee shop. We played, I had a band with my roommate. That was a crazy band. We played at Battle of the Bands and took our clothes off and went crazy. We had so much fun. The point is, I want to do more. My natural state is to do more shows, more videos, more YouTube channels, more businesses, more things that help creators. I just want to do more things. I like doing things. It gives me energy. It makes me excited. So fast forward 20 years. This has become quite a problem. Ryan called, and this is Ryan, my co-founder at Scary Pockets. Ryan runs Scary Pockets. He called me, he was dying. He was like totally underwater. And we did this custom design thing. And I just want to show you the output of these sessions. Here's what Scary Pockets was doing. New music video every week, and we're now 5 years old, so we have like 300 music videos on our channel. This is like our main thing, new music video every week. We were doing stories. We just launched stories a couple years ago. This is a new acoustic, stripped down cover. Instead of funk, it's like acoustic music. We did one acoustic cover a day on the stories channel. There were these fun videos, you know, a little bit more stripped down, but still a lot of work. 2 production days a month for stories. We started to get into short form because we were hearing that we got to like get on short form and learn about this. TikTok, we started doing TikTok, but TikTok requires a lot of videos. So we were producing another 25, 30-second music videos for short form and TikTok. And the videos were funny, and we got a bunch of followers on TikTok, and it was really fun. We were also going on tour. We planned to play 50 to 60 shows this year. We were building a streaming app for our patrons because at this point now we have thousands of songs out, and we wanted to have something for our patrons. We were launching a loops and samples thing so that we have a lot of fans of Scary Pockets who are producers themselves. They want to use our drum loops. They want to use our bass loops. They want to produce and arrange their own music using our stuff. So we were spinning up loops and samples. We were playing private shows. Companies would pay Scary Pockets to go play a gig at a party. It was an amazing source of income for the band. It was like, you know, sometimes we get paid 30 or 40K for one of these private shows. It was awesome. We were making a big band record. We were making a record with David Ryan Harris. We were promoting a record with John Schofield, Larry Golding's Mono Neon, Lewis Cole. It was this awesome record. We were so psyched about it. We wanted to blow the top off this thing and really promote it. So we were working on a promo plan for this. We were also making these short-form commercials every 3 months to like advertise our vinyl club, because we come out with so much music. We come out with a new record every 3 months, and so we wanted folks to know about the subscription record club. And we dressed up as Bob Ross and told them about our subscription vinyl club. We were also planning a Pocketeers retreat. This was like a retreat in the mountains for our fans where you could come for 3 days and take master classes and have a great time. We have a Discord where we do live streams. We have an Instagram where we post way too much stuff, and we had a merch store, where we sell vinyl and t-shirts and everything else, and oh my God, this was so much, and we couldn't do it. Ryan was managing this whole thing, not by himself. There's a small team, but not a big enough team to manage all those things. So we asked ourselves the questions, the whole custom design process. What's working? What's not working? What do we want to change? That helped us clarify what we really wanted. And what we really wanted was just 2 things. This is an important part of the process. What do we really want? What are we trying to do? And it was just 2 things, really. Our main music videos were feeling stale, and we wanted them to get better. And we wanted to grow our team so that we could take work off of Ryan's plate and essentially do just what Pomplamoose did. We saw the value in that. We wanted to do that too. That was it. That's really what we wanted. Music videos and team. If we did those 2 things well, everything else could not be done. This gave us the courage to focus and to ask the really hard question that obviously comes next after this, which is, for me, the hardest question. And I know a lot of creative people, I think it's a hard question for a lot of creative people too, which is, what are we willing to stop doing in order to get this stuff? What are we willing to subtract in order to get here? I didn't understand the power of this question until the last couple of years. We asked ourselves some more hard questions in order to get to the bottom of this. Questions like, what are we doing that isn't helping us hit these goals? What could be simpler? What could save us time? What feels draining? Where is our time going? What are the categories of our hours? Which activities are getting us closer to those goals? Which are holding us back? And 2 key problems emerged. First, our short-form strategy on TikTok was not working. TikTok production. There were a number of problems with it. It was draining to do 25 videos in one day. It was expensive to produce. It was not driving membership. It was not driving streaming on Spotify. And on top of all that, it felt like a high volume, low quality, low artistry kind of thing. It just didn't feel wholesome enough. The second big problem was that live shows were a total pain in the world of COVID. Live shows were a pain. There are a few big problems with touring. The first is we were getting 2/3 of the ticket sales because fewer people were going to shows, but it was the same amount of work to put shows together. There were cancellations due to Omicron. It was time-consuming and demoralizing to do loads of work to only disappoint our fans for something that was completely out of our control. And that morning, after thinking through these specific problems, we decided to cancel our future tour plans for the next 6 to 12 months. This was so hard. Probably would have been canceled anyway, but it's still hard. We also canceled our short form production. No more of these short form days. It was hard to get to that point, to make those decisions. But as soon as we made those decisions, it was like immediate relief. Immediate. Oh, like it was just, we all felt it immediately. Now, somebody might say, you're a band. You need to play live shows. It's idiotic if you don't play live shows if you're a band. That's how bands do it. Bands play live shows. And it's a fair point. Bands play live shows. You might also say, you're not utilizing TikTok. TikTok is the future of the music industry. That's where it's going. If you're not uploading to TikTok, you're agreeing that you're gonna go into irrelevance and fade into the past. You might say that. Another fair point. I actually think TikTok is the future. But it wasn't the focus. It wasn't our focus. Our focus was our videos and our team. It's not that TikTok and live aren't important. They're very important. They're very important. But the thing is, I used to feel so guilty about not doing important things. It made me feel so guilty. But there's so many important things that we're not doing, that I'm not doing, certainly. I remember having a coaching conversation. Does anybody work with a coach? Anybody ever work with a coach? Okay, cool. A few people work with a coach. I found it very valuable for me. Remember having a coaching conversation with my coach, and I was feeling really bad for being super behind on email. There were like a bunch of people in my email that I hadn't gotten back to you, and I felt terrible. I felt terrible about it. So bad, in fact, that he was like, Jack, what have you been doing? How come you haven't done this? And I was like, well, I was fundraising for the company. We were doing a fundraise, and so that's really hard. I'm working with like 20 different investors and trying to negotiate deals and trying to close this round. And he said, okay, how important is the fundraise? And I said, what do you mean how important? Like, it's a fundraise. We're raising $60 million. It's going to allow us to like build the company and hire people and do all the things. It's really important. And he said, okay. And how good of a job did you do on the fundraise? I was like, we closed the fundraise. I knocked it out of the park. We got the money. We can like build now. We're in build mode. He's like, okay, so what you're telling me is you did the most important thing and you did it really well. And I was like, yeah. And something about the way he said it, I had a little bit of a ding moment, which is like, there's always items 11, 12, and 13 on my list that I don't get to, and they make me feel like shit. But what I'm really trying to do is knock 1, 2, and 3 out of the park. That's what I want to do. And I try to focus on 1, 2, and 3 now, and not worry so much about 4, 5, and 6, and 12, and 13, and 14. It's easier said than done, but it's a very powerful thing for me. It's been very powerful. It's been powerful, not so much for productivity. It's helpful for productivity, but it's been powerful for my mental health and sanity and psychology. It's been powerful for my psychology. Like, touring is important. TikTok is important. Short form is important. They're just not the most important thing. And so I'm not going to feel guilty about not doing these things. You should subtract things from your life. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Last thing. I got a few minutes left. We are not alone. Okay. We are in the middle of a loneliness epidemic right now. We are in a loneliness epidemic, but it's not because of masks and lockdowns or because we're working on things from home instead of from offices. I think these things might be contributing, but I don't think that's it. I don't think that's why we're in a loneliness epidemic. We're lonely because content is not life. When we consume the internet, we are not seeing reality, we are not seeing life. We are seeing content, and content is not the same as the world. I know everyone's been talking about this for years. I know this is nothing new, that we're all posing on Instagram and hashtag living our best lives. I get that, but I think it's worse than we think. I think it's worse than we think. When you're recording, it changes everything. Recording our lives turns our actions, turns us into actors. reading our lines to reflect our personal brands and strategically designing impressions of ourselves that we want other people to have. And as more and more of our time shifts online, as more and more of the human experience shifts into the internet, we are spending more and more of our time not being our true selves and not seeing the true selves of others. Companies are performing their brand values on Twitter with flawless execution, and their success is drawing imitation from people who on the internet now act more like companies and systems than like human beings. These avatars and screen names of people are looking and sounding less like Homo sapiens every time I see them on the web. They are consistent and polished and predictable and eloquent and witty and always know what to say. And that makes me feel alone. It makes me feel like the only human around. We act different. We sound different when we're making content. And I'm not saying content is evil, by the way. I think content is awesome. I love making stuff. It's just not life. When the record light is blinking, we will talk about the lessons we've learned and the solace we've found in those lessons. When the record light is blinking, we will talk about our frustration with the content treadmill, but that we just need to remember that we're so lucky to have creativity be our job. When the record light is blinking, we will talk about finding our inner strength. When the record light is blinking, we will talk about ignoring the views and the likes. Who cares about that shit? When the record light is blinking, we will talk about how we used to be so bummed out by the comment section, but how we've learned how to not let the trolls get to our heads. And we will have this conversation, and we will sell ourselves to each other and to the world, and we will congratulate ourselves for gracing the planet with our optimism and our passion, and then we'll X out of the Zoom screen, and we will turn off our cameras, and we will feel tired, and we will feel alone. But we are not alone. We are not alone. Real human beings are out there, and they are just like you and me. This was my favorite thing I did last year. This right here was my favorite thing. 6 creators in a call. We did 1 hour a week for 12 weeks, and we got together and we talked about what's working, what's not working, what's hard, what's awful, what's great, what are you doing next, where do you feel like crap, where do you feel inspired and excited. These calls were so great. We almost recorded them. We almost recorded the calls. I'm so glad we didn't. I'm so glad we decided not to record these calls because creators could really get into it. Creators were talking about feeling guilty when they relax and take a day off. Other folks are talking about constantly feeling behind. Some creators are talking about feeling sick of creating often and how it made them question their artistry. Oh God, it's intense. Talking about feeling angry at themselves when they're not able to stick to their plans and how it takes a toll on their self-esteem. It was real humans. It was beautiful. It was a wonderful thing to have this group of people and to talk through real things together. I'm going to read a quote from Charlie Kaufman. Has everybody seen these movies? Adaptation, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Yes, Being John Malkovich. Amazing, amazing movies. Actually, my favorite movies ever. Charlie Kaufman, who's the writer, says this. I love this quote. Say who you are. Really say it in your life and in your work. Tell someone out there who is lost, someone not yet born, someone who won't be born for 500 years. Your writing will be a record of your time. It can't help but be. But more importantly, if you're honest about who you are, you'll help that person be less lonely in their world. I love this quote. I love it because Charlie reminds me that even when I'm up here on a stage, I don't have to act out a part. I can just be myself. My favorite artist on the planet, any Prince fans in the house? Some Prince fans? Oh my God, have you seen the music video for Kiss? Have you seen this video? He's crazy. He's half naked and dancing around and twirling, and he's genderless and he's sexy and he's just amazing. God, I see a Prince video, I'm like, I want to be myself. I want to be who I am. Who knows Emma Chamberlain? Who watches Emma Chamberlain videos? I know it's weird to talk about Emma Chamberlain right after talking about Prince, but man, I feel the same about Emma Chamberlain. She's disorganized and she's unclear and she stops her train of thought mid-sentence and then moves on to something else and all she eats is salad and she's wired and weird and a million miles an hour. I see her and it makes me feel okay to be me. The creators, I'm going to see creators again. Creators in the room, raise your hand. You have the power to make people feel less alone. That's what you have the power to do. Just by being who you are, you have that power to be yourselves. I'm bald. I don't mind it because of how it looks. That's not why. That's fine. Hats are kind of my thing. It's not the looks. It's because every day when I look in the mirror, I'm reminded of my mortality. I'm reminded that I'm one day closer to my death. A friend of mine recently told me about a book he was reading called 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. I didn't read the book, but just the title made me sweat a little bit. The life expectancy of a human male in the United States is 78 years, which equates to about 4,000 weeks, hence the title of the book. It wasn't that number, though, that made such an impression. It was that I am 37 years old. So that's 41 years left until I hit that average lifespan, if I'm luckier than half of the men alive in the United States. 41 years. That is 2,132 weeks. This is 2,132 dots on this screen. That is how many weeks left I have in my life, if I'm really lucky. The worst thing about death, if you ask me, is that when you're dead, you can't make things anymore. You can't write scripts or record songs. You can't stay up all night and get a video over the finish line. You can't write down your ideas or layer just the right sound effects to make the story hit home. But when I leave this planet and enter darkness forever, I want to know that at least I put my real self into the world in my hours and in my weeks. I want to know that I spoke to someone and made them feel more confident to be themselves. I want to know that I was honest about who I am. I want to know that whether the record light was blinking or not in my time on this planet, I was who I was. We are not alone. Ahem! Be true to yourself! Fuck you too, South by Southwest. Thank you.